HeyImAmethyst here. For those who are returning, welcome back to another video on my channel. And for those who are new here, welcome. As you can guess from the title of this video, yes, I can't play Dinkum anymore. There is a couple reasons why I've decided that I can't play this game anymore until a couple things change. Now, this isn't a direct attack at the creator of Dinkum, and I'm not condoning any form of harassment towards the creator. I don't condone any forms of that. Obligatory, please do not attack, harass, dox anybody that I mentioned in this video. I'm just making this video because I feel like it's important to raise awareness about the subjects that I'm about to talk about. I feel like with this sort of topic, there are going to be certain individuals who are just going to be rude and mean and stuff like that. And I just want to let y'all know, if you're just going to comment on this video where I'm stating my reasons and my opinions as to why I'm not going to be reporting something, I'm just going to hide you from the channel if you're just going to be rude and just be a little shit. Just fair warning for right now. I am gonna swear, I am gonna get passionate, but please know I'm not trying to start like any sort of drama or whatever, because I feel like it's really important to that, you know, people talk about these things instead of being silent. So yeah, I'm just going to get straight off with the reasons why I've decided that I'm not going to play Dinkum anymore. So I was recently kind of wanting to get back into Dinkum and stuff like that. However, when I was thinking about starting a new world or continuing on with the old world that I was on, I kind of remembered something off the back of, well, a couple things off the back of my head. So as I've kind of mentioned before in another video, I'm currently in school and I'm taking like a history class, and we're learning about it's like the class name is Western Civilization. It's like the second part. So we're kind of like learning about like the history of Europe and stuff like that, not from the very beginning, but like kind of like starting from around the time of the French Revolution, the American Revolution, like from the Enlightenment, from the scientific revolution up to and then on to the Enlightenment, and then right now we're like talking about the Second World War. So yeah, while I was thinking about, you know, getting back into Dinkum, I kind of had like this thing pop up in the back of my mind about imperialism and colonialism, because there was a topic about the effects of like imperialism and stuff like that, and one of the assignments that we had to do was like listening to a podcast. It was like the history of the entire world in 100 objects or something along the lines of that, and one of the episodes we had to listen to and do a quiz on was like from Australia. It was like this shield from like the indigenous people from like one of their like villages from Australia. And I listened to that podcast and I kind of like I did the assignment, but that was what kind of popped up in my head. And I know like a couple of months back or maybe a year or two back, I don't know, that while I was like searching for some Dinkum mods, like I kind of saw this post pop up in my feed, in my Google feed. It was talking about like the issues with Dinkum and colonialism. I didn't click on that post at the time. I kind of just saw it and then went past it. And while I was, you know, thinking about getting back into Dinkum and then thinking about that podcast that we had to listen to, I kind of remembered that post, and I kind of just had this sinking feeling and this just realization. So for those of you who don't know what Dinkum is, it's like a indie game it was originally made by like a single person, you know, and they just wanted to make a game inspired by Minecraft, Stardew Valley, and stuff like that, but kind of like in an Australian setting. Like they wanted to bring part of the Australian culture into gaming. So that was kind of like their reasons for why they made their game. And it was fun. Like I remember having Dinkum in my wish list for quite a while. And I didn't buy it immediately when it came out. I kind of just bought it like a couple months after when I could afford it, and it was really fun. I really liked the game, and I don't. It was like really fun. I spent so much hours into the game, and I was like keeping up with their updates. I joined their Discord and stuff like that. So yeah, it was just an indie game made by a single person, who just wanted to like make a game like inspired by the list of games that I mentioned, but like kind of like with an Australian twist to it, you know. But the premise of the game is you kind of like leave this like gloomy village. It's like a post-apocalyptic situation where you leave this village and then you kind of go and then you inhabit this like empty island, and you kind of just like settle there and like build up your village and stuff like that. Now, this would have been fine if this was just like a simple game that didn't take inspiration from Australian culture, but the fact that it does, and you're kind of like inhabiting this island, it kind of just raises, it's kind of a bit of a problem when considering the certain actions that the developer and certain individuals decided to take in regards to like this issue with colonialization. I decided, like, when I was thinking about that post again and then coming to that realization of like the implications of what the symbolic implications of what I was doing in the game, I kind of took it upon myself to like find that article again and read it. And it's a pretty, I feel like it's a really important article to read and to look at, because I feel like this is something that needs to be addressed by the developer. So this is the first post in question. I saw the second part to this post first, I think. I don't know if I've ever seen the first part of this post like all those months or years ago. But I found when I tried looking up this article again, I came across the second part, and then I tried finding the first part. So this is the first part, and it's titled "Dinkum's developer has yet to address the controversy surrounding this game." Now, this article was posted around the time the game was launched, and it pretty much calls out the issue of like colonialization that's within the game. So what they pointed, so they didn't, the person who wrote this article, they didn't know about anything about Dinkum, but they came across a thread by a streamer named 𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀. I clicked on this link, and I don't know if this is like if they changed your name or something, but when I clicked on the link, their posts were hidden. And that's kind of like what happened to a lot of these links in this thread. People like bringing awareness to this issue, and their threads are either hidden or deleted. And I wouldn't be surprised if that why they would be hidden, because a lot of it's on Twitter. And if any of y'all know the shit that goes on Twitter, I can pretty much guess that they got a lot of harassment and a lot of what I'm gonna call roaches who just thought it was okay to be shitheads and rude and not really understanding why this is a serious issue. So they linked the thread by the streamer, in which they called out the issues that the game has that go far beyond the representation of the indigenous people. So this person also on Twitter, like, they had a thread where they did their research and they kind of had like main critique points, but this thread was also deleted. Like, not only the thread, but like their whole Twitter account was deleted. So I won't be able to like pull it up and kind of show you what this person said. I can only go off of the remnants of what was happening. So at the time, well, like the article says, right, one of the points that Alec mentions here is that they encountered a very insensitive joke about children being traded for antique cutlery. This is something that the British tried to do: trade a hat or other goods for indigenous kids, and other jarring stories. So yeah, like they encourage other people to like read their thread, but the thread is gone. Like the whole Twitter account is gone, so I can only read by what the article is reporting. And there was like another person on Twitter who made a similar thread, and like it said, Jigzy on Twitter also made a similar thread talking about how this isn't cancellation, but rather an opportunity for the developer in question. According to Jiggy, the developer has the chance to reach out to a cultural consultant and, actually pay them and learn what's missing, wrong, prejudiced, or misrepresented, and work to improvement. And I did see that he did comment on this post, like on this issue. So in this stream thread, there was like a person who made a post and was asking whether or not the game had any acknowledgement to like the indigenous people of Australia. And this is what the developer James had to say about it. I think that including elements from many different indigenous Australian cultures would make the game more interesting and unique. However, I don't identify as indigenous Australian, so I thought it would be inappropriate for me to incorporate them into the game. Keep this in mind. I developed the game on a shoestring budget by myself for 4 years. I did reach out to my local elders, but due to COVID and my inability to adequately compensate them for their time, I was unable to get someone to help me incorporate new elements. Also keep this in mind. I hope that in the future I can find a way to include more indigenous Australian culture, like some of the Dreamtime stories, for example. Yeah, so this is what the developer had to say on the matter, but I have my own opinions and critiques on this, but I'm going to continue on with the article. So it's like this person in the article wrote, a lot of tweets I link here has been reasonable and kind, but there are many voices on Twitter and Steam who are not so lenient in their phrasing. When you hurt people, you can't decide on what tone they take after all. Hence, I truly hope the developer takes this feedback truly to heart and that he learns from it and corrects issues present in his game. And and then this person also linked another article. I will like go through it and like kind of comment on some of the things that they put in that article too. But like what this one says here, Dinkum represents a terra nullius in its premise, a term used by the British to justify colonialism and sentiment of what would become known as Australia. Yeah, it pretty much yeah, so that's what it is. And in their conclusion, they said, I think people have a responsibility to know some things, or at least try to do the research before they put any jokes into the game. I mean, there is yet to come out of a statement regarding that one line, let alone any of the other allegations. Dinkum's developer claims that the game is set in a fictional version of Australia, but that doesn't quite make sense when one considers the references in that one joke. Being vocal about these things is very important, in my opinion. After all, we can't just erase history. We can't undo what has happened. So what we can do, however, is to learn from the past mistakes and make sure that past atrocities don't occur again. We are responsible for learning about and teaching what has occurred in the past, no matter how gruesome. Never forget. And yeah, that was pretty much the basis of this article. It was like calling out the issues of colonialism and imperialism that is set into the game. Now I'm going to move on to this article. That's the first article linked, and it pretty much like it like describes Dinkum and stuff like that, and it pretty much like goes into like points as to why this is an issue. So, like in its preface, Dinkum represents a terra nullius. Terra nullius means nobody's land, and it was a term used by the British to justify the colonialism and sentiment of what would become known as Australia. Terra nullius was not only used as a justification for colonialism, but it also justified the British bringing 200 plus years of genocide. Hunting parties were organized out and killed indigenous people. Massacres were officially registered and conducted. Children were stolen, enslavement and blackbirding were prevalent. These were just a few reasons why even the suggestion of terra nullius is a big deal. In a recent Twitter thread by Alex, in particular, they noticed some pretty troubling. So in this Twitter thread, they include screenshots, but because it's gone, I can't show you. So I guess in that thread, it mentioned certain things, and the article says Dinkum makes jokes about the trading of children for cult-3. Now, this was actually Alex's Twitter thread that pushed me to play the game myself and investigate further. When I personally came to the same scene, it seemed as though the dialogue was silently changed. So, like, it seems like there was like a picture here, but it's gone now. They were talking about the joke, and the First Nations people in Australia suffered several genocide attempts, one attempt becoming known as the Stolen Generation. The Stolen Generation refers to Indigenous children who were removed from their families during the early 1900s to around the late 1970s. These children were removed because they were considered mixed race, born of one Indigenous and one non-Indigenous parent. As such, they're considered able candidates to be assimilated into Anglo-Australian society. So, yeah, it's like... Okay, so this assimilation was an initiative to essentially enslave children and have their blackness forcibly bred over generations. A genocide attempt. Part of this, many indigenous children were also traded between colonists for various things, including household goods. But yeah, they also, there's like more, they go into more why this is like a problem. Because like, with that joke being made, and this game being set is like based on Australia, it's like insensitive. It's like problematic. Like, I can't find the word, because when like doing some research into this situation, I just can't help but feel like incredibly angry, right? So going further, when making a game set in Australia, whether fictionalized version or not, you cannot erase First Nation people. There are First Peoples of Australia, meaning they're integral to the history, culture, and identity of the country. Erasing them perpetuate the lie of terra nullius. You cannot say you felt it would be inappropriate to include things from the First Nations cultures and then make them an inappropriate joke about child trading in the same game. Any game made on Australian land, stolen land, can and should acknowledge the First Nations people. Similar to how Entitled Goose Game makes reference to the First Nation people in the credits. This is a simple gesture, but it goes a long way in terms of acknowledgement and respect. I mean, I still have an issue with like this in particular, but I'll like comment on that when I get to it. Hire First Nations peoples as consultants for your video game. Yes, they exist. If the premise involves a fictional or non-fictional Australia, it is important to hire First Nations people as consultants. Budget for it in the development of the video game.
Being a solo developer is no excuse for completely ignoring the history of the country and the original custodians of the land. So yeah, that's pretty much the article. And there was an update to the first article, like I said. So this was like the update to it. So from reading this article, right? So like I said with like the previous article that we just read, like the joke was removed. It was silently removed, but it wasn't acknowledged in any patch notes. So as it read, it was removed and changed into something harmless that has nothing to do with indigenous people or anyone really. It actually makes said trait out to be a legend of sorts. Anyhow, despite being removed from the game, said act is not acknowledged anywhere in the patch notes for Dinkum, which is upsetting. Dinkum's developers know that he's messed up there, and instead of apologizing for it, or at least acknowledging it in the patch notes, he tries to sweep it under the rug. So yeah, I didn't see anything on this when I was like digging through the patch notes either. So I mean, yeah, I didn't see anything about it either. Making a statement in the credits. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about. So anyway, I posted something in the general discussion forum of Dinkum where there be a statement regarding the controversies. A little bit later, I got 2 replies. A link to this post. So this was a link to the Steam post that I showed y'all, as well as a blank statement to the moderator of the forum. According to the moderator, the island was inspired by the wild Australian outback. Asking this type of question on these forums will always stir up trolling, locking the thread. Later they added, the in-game credit contained this acknowledgement by James. So this was like the statement that was posted in the credits. Stirring up drama. Just as a disclaimer, stirring up drama was not the intention of that post. I thought my phrasing here was without bad faith or anything of the like. I simply stated what I mean by the controversies. However, I can understand the moderator's decision to lock the thread. After looking at the aforementioned link to another forum post, I was able to tell that there was a lot of immature people in this game's community. Replies start out simple and respectful, but a few pages later, more and more rude and hostile among the 90+ comments in the thread. Apparently, a lot of people will take references to colonialism that are in the game and just ignore them completely before they attack others for just wanting representation or a statement. So yeah, that's pretty much like, there's more to this, but that's pretty much the issue, the main issue that I'm having with this game. Because I gradually stopped playing Dinkum for another reason. I stopped really playing Dinkum for like another reason, but like this was like kind of like the second reason as to why I was like, I can't play this game anymore. So the first reason as to why I decided that I wasn't going to continue playing Dinkum anymore was because of a situation that happened a couple of years ago between a mod creator and the moderation in the Discord at the time. So the mod developer name was 𝗂𝗶𝗱𝗲𝗀. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that name, but they were making mods for the game. When I downloaded the game and I heard that there was mods, I immediately jumped on that ship because I love modding my games. I think it's a pretty fun thing to do, and I like seeing the mods that other people create. But like, once I started modding the game and seeing these mods, and then kind of like a couple of updates later, I kind of saw that the mod author that I mentioned kind of like quit modding. And they quit modding because of a statement that they posted on their mods. So it was like they ended up quitting. they deleted their mods, and then they decided to re-upload those mods, but they had a statement. So I would put that statement up on screen now. But essentially, they were driven out of the Dinkum community by, in a very bigoted way, by the Discord's very own management team. So that's why they decided to quit modding. So they quit modding because of the way that they were treated in the mod community. So when I first heard about the situation, I was like appalled, because I was just appalled, right? And what even kind of turned me off from the community was how it was handled, right? Because I did my own digging at the time. I tried to see if there was anything in the Discord, if anything was mentioned in the Discord. And when I tried looking up the mod creator's name in the Discord, right, it seemed like they were having normal conversations up until a certain point, and then they just kind of declared that they were leaving and they were quitting the modding scene. Now, when I was looking into this situation, I was surprised because nobody seemed to have been offering this person support. No, there wasn't any big uproar in like the Discord. Like, the creator for the game didn't make a statement or anything. Like, I understand like the creator for the game is like busy and they can't look into every channel in the Discord, right? But I can't understand how they could have not heard of like a mod creator being harassed by the moderation team of the Discord. Like, I don't understand how the creator did not pick up on this and like make a statement and like try to do some changes within the management, right? Because, you know, because like modding in the game is like it's kind of like there's like, the game supports like the modding community, the modding community. Like, there's a space, even though like the modding methods aren't official, like they have their own channel in the official Discord. So what also is like kind of baffling is, you know, why didn't, you know, anybody try to like do more investigating? Like, why didn't anybody ask what happened, why the moderators did what they did? Like, there is no like screenshots. Like the mod, like 𝗂𝗶𝗺𝗲𝗀, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce like the mod author in question, right? I'm just gonna name, because like their Discord name was Rika, so I'll just call them Rika. Because like Rika didn't post any screenshots. They didn't go into more depths within the situation, so I don't want to outright say that they're lying, but we don't know what happened unless, you know, screenshots and evidence are being brought forth. But nobody in the Discord seemed to have done anything. They didn't seem to like ask for accountability. Nothing was really done. And when trying to go back to this now, when searching in the Discord now, right, it seemed like years later, right, because there was somebody who had the very same question. It's like, you know, why did this happen? Like, what happened? Why did they leave? Did anybody, you know, why didn't anybody do anything or something like that? Like, and from the comments that I got from that conversation, right, it seemed like Rika themselves became a mod, and then shortly afterwards left the server. They said goodbye and they left the server. They didn't explain to anything. At least from the perspectives of those who were in the conversation, that's what happened. But like, one of the people in that conversation said, I wouldn't want to comment any further as I don't know the details, but it's definitely not representative of the server as a whole. The server has become busy again with full release and lots of newbies. So like I understand like certain disagreements within the server, that doesn't really represent the server as a whole, but if there's like a situation where a person is accusing the mod team of bigotry, and because of that interaction they were forced to quit something that they enjoyed doing in the game, and they quit like interacting with that community, I feel like that should be a big deal, because the moderation teams, they were selected by the people in charge. I don't know if James themselves were responsible for choosing the mods, but you know, if you own a server and your moderation team is being pieces of shit, that's going to reflect badly on you, and that should be taken seriously. You know? So the fact that they were kind of just like dismissing it, that person was like kind of like dismissing it a little bit, I feel like they don't really understand how serious that can be. Now, the people that might have been in the mod team back then, they probably aren't in the server now. They probably aren't in the moderation team now, because it has been a couple of years. But the fact that it's been years and, you know, this kind of situation still hasn't truly been resolved, it kind of like left a icky feeling in my mouth, because if what that mod creator said was to be believed, then it seems like bigotry is like a problem in that community. And honestly, bigotry in gaming is like a really huge problem right now as a whole. And going back to like what the article said about the statement in the credits, right? Like just putting like your acknowledgement of the indigenous people in the land that you're basing your game off of in a place where people aren't going to be able to see, I feel like that's a really scummy move. You should put that statement either in the title screen or where somebody is going to be able to see it more clearly, because not everybody is going to go through the credits and see that statement. In a space where it's incredibly hard to have representation, for minorities to have representation, I feel like there should be have been more of an effort for the acknowledgement to be seen by a lot more people. It's like, considering what the articles have reported and the fact that a lot of these Twitter threads that were linked were deleted, I have a feeling that there is an issue with bigotry in this community. And it really sucks, because if I go back to the Steam page, right? If I like flip back, yeah, like you see this comment, it's pretty obvious that you have some difficulty separating fantasy from fiction from reality. Otherwise, you'll understand that video games are an escape portal from stuff you see to enjoy. Yeah, like people were just, because you can see this thread. Like, I'll link this thread in the description below. But like, as you can see, people are just dismissing how serious how this is. And I'm just like appalled that this is the opinion of like certain people, right? Because the imperialism, like the colonialism, like the Europeans used the fact that the indigenous people were different to justify them taking over their land and claiming it as their own, right? The social Darwinism, right, that these people had in their minds, right? They saw people that weren't like them as less than, as not human, as unfit to participate in society, and therefore they used that justification to enslave them, to kill them, to take their land, to take their rights away. And as somebody who is African American, like, I'm not Native American, but like this is the same type of thinking that not only has contributed in the enslavement of African Americans, but it also contributed to the genocide of the Native Americans in America. It contributed to the enslavement of like the harassment like the African people had to face in Africa, and the genocide of the indigenous people in Australia, and the infantilization of like people, if the Eastern people, you know, like the Asians, the Indians, and stuff like that. It's the same thinking that caused the Holocaust. Like, this is very dangerous thinking. It's the reason why so many people can't seem to, who aren't white, who aren't, you know, stuff like that. It's like why we are still having problems again, because these type of thinking is still prevalent. And the fact that people, because I know some people are going to say, oh, it's not that deep and stuff like that. Oh, it's just, you know, it's just, you're just trying to stir up stuff. This is, you know, in my opinion, this, that, and the third. Like, our existence isn't a fucking opinion.
We like black people, we like trans people, we like gay people, we like queer people, we like minorities, we like underserved communities, okay? We like women, we like migrants, we like everybody here, okay? DEI, all right? Acronym. I know it scares a lot of y'all. Ooh, diversity, equity, inclusion. Boo! Halloween came early. Shit. Doesn't matter what you pray to, who you look like, what you done, how you did it, right? As long as you're not hurting nobody, right? And I just want to make it abundantly clear that these people's existence is not a matter of opinion. People's right to exist on this earth as they are, regardless of what they look like or how they sound or the way they carry themselves or whatever. People's right to exist here on this earth, no matter what you look like, is not a matter of opinion to me.
Has it ever occurred to you that you don't have to struggle to have your peoples represented in media? Has it ever occurred to you that you never have to worry about suddenly being shot or being killed because of your race or because of your religion or because of your culture? Like, us minorities have to work so extra hard to like be represented in media. And when we bring up these issues in regards to representation or regards to cultural appropriation and stuff like that, people are just so quick to throw insults. They're so quick to diminish our feelings and to say that it's not a big a deal, but it is a big deal.
I shouldn't have to say this, but lately it really feels like intellectualism is dying. I saw a video recently where someone was explaining the cultural roots of a South African dance that a K-pop girl group used in their choreography, and they were very kind about it and they genuinely just wanted to educate. But unfortunately, when I opened the comment section, everyone was just like, it's not that deep and just let people enjoy things. I'm sure you guys have heard these sorts of things, and it's honestly kind of frightening to see how detached we are from history and context and people just trying to educate others. I don't think the person in the video was trying to gatekeep. They weren't shaming the girl group. They were just trying to preserve the context, the history, and the identity, which we lose so much of when we flatten everything into trend cycles.
Because this type of thinking, like this type of, you know, ignoring and the erasure of our cultures, you know, this is how genocides happen. This is how discrimination happens. Like, if you look back to the Jim Crow laws, if you look back to the Holocaust, if you look back to a lot of these horrible acts done to the minorities, it's because the white counterparts, these white people, just want to, because we don't look like them, that, you know, because of this like white supremacy, you know, it's very, very damaging. These these indigenous people, they had their homes taken away, they had their freedom taken away, they had their right to exist taken away, all because the Europeans didn't consider them human because of the social Darwinism. and the justifications for imperialism is very, very damaging. And the fact that these people that I mentioned in the articles before, like, they were so quick to say that, oh, it's just drama that you're trying to bring up. And it's really disgusting.
You're not going to sit here and bully people and make it seem like their existence is small and the issues that happen in their community is small and just make people just feel worse about themselves. Gaming and video games in general have a bigotry problem, right? And it's a situation that people act like is not there and doesn't exist. And everybody, oh, I don't see color. I don't see these things. Yeah, I'm not believing that shit. And as somebody who's Black and enjoys video games, I have to look twice as hard to try to find video game communities and spaces that aren't bigoted or don't treat people like me like their death as a joke. I have to work twice as hard. Do you know why? Because people like these people that are commenting these things haven't gone out of their way to leave their mom's basement and actually shake hands or get to know somebody like me. They haven't gone out of their way to meet somebody who is of a marginalized community. These people are full of hatred and stay inside in their echo chamber. They ingest it and then they spew it back out into the internet for people like me to see. I don't want to be a part of a fucking community like that. And what kills me inside is when people act like that type of shit is not there. And there's not other people that don't look like you that are not in these spaces. So you're just free to say whatever bigoted, ignorant, disgusting fucking thing you'd like to say. Sections like that are a constant reminder of how undervalued my type of perspective is, or who I am as a being is in the gaming industry and my niche hobbies and things of that nature. It reminds me of no matter how much I like a certain thing or I like a certain product, or no matter where I go in my life, the first thing people are going to see is my race or something about me that is, again, not particularly accepted in the gaming community. Me being a woman, for some people it's being a migrant, for some people it's being trans or gay. It's a constant reminder of how hated we are in spaces that we enjoy and how much people take pleasure in demeaning and dehumanizing this very community. And one thing I'm not going to stand for is when a creator is able to look at that comment section and see what the fuck is going on and does nothing.
And what's also really disgusting is the fact that the creator, James, made no fucking effort to apologize for the insensitive joke. And he didn't put that in the patch notes. And he put the statement in the credits where people can't see. Like, these actions, they're ignorant at best and racist at worst and bigoted at worst. And in my opinion, these don't seem like the actions of an ignorant person. Because if he was just ignorant, right? If he made that insensitive joke and learned that it was insensitive, he would have apologized. He would have apologized and put that in the patch notes, right? And I tried looking through the patch notes, right? I tried looking through the patch notes to see if there was any reference made, after the fact of him putting indigenous representation into the game. And I tried looking hard. I tried looking at the trailers. Unless I missed something, I could not find anything, right? And there was like this new game that's out. Or I don't know if it's out yet, but they're working on a new game called Dinkum together, right? And it seems like it's still based on Dinkum, and Dinkum has Australian aspects to it. So my question is there going to be representation put into that game, right? Why is it so fucking hard to just reach out to the indigenous people and get their feedback? All right? Because he said that, he didn't have the time to go to their elders, to go to his local elders and ask them to incorporate new elements, right? But it's been a couple fucking years now. COVID came and passed, right? You can't use that excuse anymore, right? And you're saying that it's inappropriate for you as someone who isn't indigenous to incorporate. The Sims 4 recently put out an update that includes that includes items based on African culture. Now, in my humble opinion, they did a fuck ass job at that. It was piss poor quality. Like, it was the stuff that they added, it's just reskins of items we already had, right? The textures were shit. They didn't involve the black modding creators within the community who had done a way better job at incorporating African elements into the game than this update did, right? They consulted like an African diversity group, but most of the people in the who are in charge of that group, aside from the occasional black man or white woman, or there's not a lot of diversity in that group. So I don't really think that they truly did their due diligence and including diversity into the game with that update, to be honest. And we've been asking for that update for years, and that update came out at a pretty bad time for The Sims 4, considering the buyout that's happening. So I don't really think they did a good job. I feel like they were just trying to do it to get brownie points, you know, for like to tick off a checkbox on a list. And like, if James is going to include indigenous representation into the game, I don't want it, and I'm sure the indigenous people wouldn't want it to be something that just has to be checked off. It has to be added in with care. They need to get involved into this process, because Australian culture involves the stories and the cultures of the indigenous people. They're part of Australian culture. And it's been a couple of years now. I'm sure you've gained quite a lot of money. You've got crafting involved in your project now. You are working with another developer for another game. I'm sure you have enough resources now to invite indigenous elders, indigenous people onto your game and ask them to incorporate more diversity into your game, right? Now, I don't know if since then, if they've included more like diverse options into the game that weren't included in the patch notes. If it did, I want people to let me know. But if I can't, like, I don't want to go back into the game and start playing it to search, because I don't want to be repeating the same things that the British did when they took over Australia. I don't want to be participating in that unless things are changed. Like, I feel once like I came to the realization, I just felt really, really icky. And it shouldn't have to be it's not an opinion to represent other underrepresented people in your game, right? It's not an opinion. It's not an optional thing.
Just a different matter of opinion, just a different viewpoint, just a different perspective, just a political opinion, right? Okay, so fuck the minorities that are in the gaming sphere and things of that nature, and how this type of rhetoric might have affected them in their personal life, or how it might have affected somebody else and how they view them. Fuck that, okay? All of their existence, how they choose to carry themselves, their smarts as a black woman, fuck all of that, right? Your existence is nothing more than just a matter of political opinion. And the thing I hate is when people try to sanitize the way that other people have fucking lived, and the shit that they have decided to spew, the hatred that they have decided to spew of communities like mine, and try to sanitize it and make it just a matter of political opinions, different viewpoints. I just want to make it clear that on this channel, somebody's existence is not a matter of political opinion, okay? I don't condone death. I don't condone violence. I don't condone any of that mess. But one thing I will not sit there and do is act like this shit is not an issue.
If you're creating a game where you are customizing your character, right, you need to include diversity if you're going to be publishing this to a wider audience. Like, if you're creating a customization game, but it's only going to be limited to like Japan, like, because everybody knows like Japan mostly has like a homogenous population, so I mean, I wouldn't be too annoyed if they didn't include representation in their game, but I probably would have still encouraged them to do, because there are some Malaysians who live in Japan. So I still would say add that representation, because interracial unions, they're still existing. You still have to represent those people, those people that live in your country. But if you're making a game and you're releasing it to a wider audience and it involves customization, right, of your characters, or it includes romance and you get to romance whoever you like, right? Or if you're incorporating certain cultures into the game and stuff like that, you need to do your due diligence, and you need to do your research, and you need to include that representation wherever possible, right? It is the responsibility of the developers working on a game, whether it be only one person, a couple people, or a mega corporation. They are not exempt from this responsibility. It is not an option. It is mandatory. Okay, you can't just ignore it because it's a problem, right? It is a huge, huge problem. And some people just think that because, like, when people are speaking out against this, it seems like some people are just so quick to dismiss it, and they're so quick to harass people because of it.
But the one time you try to address an issue of race, it always comes back to, I don't care. Violence is okay. Violence is okay towards everybody else, but it's not okay when it's when it's somebody else that looks like me, and somebody else that talks like me and walks like me. That's the only time it's okay to address violence and violent rhetoric and hatred. That is the only time it's okay. That shit pisses me off. The thing is, nothing is going to get solved unless we address that, okay?
In my opinion, if somebody is speaking out against a human rights issue, and your first response is to be a little shit and harass them and to call them names and to dismiss them, I'm sorry, but I'm going to consider you a racist. It has to be said, because there's no justification as to why you think it's okay to just go after somebody simply for them speaking out against something that should be addressed, right? There's no justification as to why you think it's okay to do something like that. All right, and if I see anybody in the comment section displaying any forms of harassment towards me simply because of me bringing up this issue, your ass being hidden. All right, because I won't condone it. I won't encourage that at all, right? I encourage people to say their opinions, and as long as it's polite, all right, as long as it's reasonable. If it's not reasonable, if it's not polite, if you're just gonna be a little dick, you're gonna be hidden. All right, you have to face the consequences for your actions, because a lot of people just seem to be real comfortable saying the most vile shit to somebody that in real life, if you said that to somebody, you would get hit in the face, honestly. And it's sad because this has been brought up from years, and now it still hasn't been brought up now, right? The game's on Switch, it's on Switch now, and still this issue has not been brought up. And I tried looking up this issue in the Discord, and nobody's bringing up this issue in the Discord either. So it's really, really, really frustrating to learn of this and see that no real responsibility or accountability has been taken in this subject, right? Because I mean, I brought up the podcast, like I have like this quote from the podcast, like, because the link to the original episode of the podcast, like, they moved, so, but I do have the transcript here, right? So in, like, from the transcript, right, what they said in the podcast, Cook, of course, knew nothing of the indigenous customs. No European could. The potential for misunderstanding in his first encounter was limitless, and retrospect, in retrospect, neither side seems to have wanted to kill or maim the other. The indigenous men threw stones and spears, but they missed everyone. Now, given that they were hunter-gatherers who lived by the accurate use of a spear, it seems highly likely that they were simply warning missiles, telling this group of white strangers to go away and leave them alone. Cook, on his side, claims he thought the spears might have poison tips, so justifying the musket shot, which he aimed at the legs of men. When the men ran off, Cook and his crew disembarked and went into the nearby woods. So even though they were facing resistance, they still decided to move on, to disregard the feelings of the indigenous people. And that's just it just makes my blood boil so much. Now, I've heard that there was some issues when it was announced that Krafton would be the publishers for Dinkum, and it seemed like a lot of people were worried about that, right? And when I was watching Not Malcolm's video, in one of his videos, where he was talking about cozy games, he mentioned Dinkum and Krafton getting involved, but he didn't really mention the issues with the colonialization. I could have sworn I saw in another video he mentioned Dinkum in a list of cozy games where there was drama within them. I can't remember if I'm just imagining this out of my ass or if it was there but I'm just looking at the wrong video. I don't know. But I know that when I was watching that video and I saw him mention Dinkum, I was kind of confused as to why he was including it, because it didn't seem like there was any issues with Dinkum from what I can gain from what I knew at the time. But little did I know there was a huge issue with Dinkum in regards to representation. So I'm just, like I said in the beginning of this video, I'm not here to try and harass other people. I'm just here to bring awareness and to demand accountability. And I want to encourage the indigenous people of Australia to demand accountability for this game and for other games as well. It shouldn't have to be a fucking struggle for us minorities to ask for representation in the games that we love to play, right? We don't want to hear any sort of excuses. We don't want to hear this, that, and the third. If there is such an issue, why not bring us into the conversation so that we can help you fix that issue? If you're concerned with something, if you're concerned about how to put in representation into your game, we don't want to hear any excuses. We've heard enough excuses, right? It's your responsibility, regardless of what type of team you have developing the game. It's your responsibility to include representation into your game. And like what I said before, it's been a couple of years now. The game's successful. There hasn't been any mention of representation being added into the game. There's no excuse anymore. You should have enough time, you should have enough resources now to go and recruit Indigenous Australians, the Indigenous people onto your project, and to ask them how to include representation. I'm just completely furious about the whole situation, and it really does suck because I really loved the game. I really liked playing the game. I really liked watching other people play the game. But I cannot, in good conscience, continue playing this game knowing the information that I have now. And staying silent about it is going to only perpetuate the issue that we have in the gaming community, and that being bigotry and bigotry, underrepresentation, and the complete erasure of history of these marginalized groups, and the fact that people are just choosing to ignore it. I'm not saying that you should stop playing the game. If you already bought the game, I suggest you get your money's worth out of that, especially if that game is helping you through some tough times. I don't want to say that, I'm not trying to say that anybody is a horrible person if they decide to play this game. I'm just making this video to just tell you guys to be aware, and to be aware of like situations like this, to be aware that the game that you might be playing right now, there might be a whole group of people that are being ignored, that the developer is choosing to ignore. And I feel like it's important that we as a gaming community make a space that is welcoming for all types of people, whether you be African American, whether you be an indigenous person, whether you be trans, whether you be gay, pan, whether you be a woman, all sorts of things. So I'm gonna go. I think I've said my piece. Again, please do not attack, harass, dox anybody that I mentioned in this video, and please be nice. I don't want to have to start hiding people on this channel. But anyways, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day / night / afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye everybody.